If you're the Cleveland Browns, one play to get a huge emotional win.
Let's go. 3 seconds. This is it. For the win. Make some noise wherever you can hear the sounds of our voice right now. Lamar Jackson has the football. Browns rushing 4. Lamar flushed out. Lamar chased by Za'Darius. Lamar Jackson avoids Za'Darius. He's got to throw it. Directing traffic. Pump fake. Now throwing. End zone. Back corner. Still good and complete. The Browns win. 29-24.
You just knew it. You knew it. You felt it. So many things happened in this game that are unexplainable. And it all added up to a Browns win. This one's for you, Jim Donovan. The Browns have beaten the Ravens. It is emotional here at Huntington Bank Field. What a win. What a moment. You can't even write stories this good sometimes, folks. Wow.
Jim, I know you're smiling. 29-24 for their second win of the year.
This is how it had to be. It's how it had to be.
How about...
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fawcett Stadium in Canton, Ohio, and the 1999 Hall of Fame game. The wait is over. Browns football is back underway.
That's it! The Browns are going to the playoffs. The postseason is back in Cleveland.
45-40, run, William, run! 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
There goes Chubb. He's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Shabba-lubba hub! And they're going to the playoffs. And the only thing that's missing, all of you.
For many years, as devoted Browns fans,
you're a good angel.
For many years, as devoted Browns fans, we faced heartbreak after heartbreak. Each season brought its own sets of challenges with countless coaches, quarterbacks, players coming and going. Yet through all of these changes, one thing remained consistent: the voice on the radio. That voice painted vivid pictures of our team's highs and mainly lows, guiding us through whether our Mondays will be great or disappointing. We cherish memorable calls like the first Browns win against the Saints in 1999, the Run William Run call, and we felt excitement as the Browns finally secured their first playoff spot in 18 years. As we heard, the only thing was missing is all of you. The voice didn't just narrate games, it nurtured countless Browns fans, weaving together our shared journey for 25 years. As I sit here with these two gentlemen on this podcast today, I can't help but to reflect on the absence of that familiar voice. It truly saddens me to think about all we will miss in the moments that shaped the game, the highs, the lows, and his passion that brought life this game that we love. His unique tone infused each play with emotion, and it's hard to imagine that we will no longer have Jim Donovan on the call with us on Sundays. I know he will never hear this, but as a podcast, I want to express our heartfelt gratitude to Jim Donovan collectively, thanking you for the tough years, making the tough years as a Browns fans bearable, and for elevating the good years to something truly special. Your voice has been a consistent companion through it all, and there's simply no replacing you. With that being said, we're about to do what Jim Donovan has done for 25 years, and that's talk about the Browns. And what makes it extra sweet is this: we get to talk about a game in which they won. There are many good things to talk about, but first, Mike and Chad, I have two questions for you. First one, do you pass out Halloween candy on Halloween, or do you shut your lights off and act like you're not home?
First and foremost,
I pass out candy.
As a dad of two girls who wants candy, I need to know whose house I'm going to. Do you have your lights on or off?
I live in the country. Mine are off. No kids walking up to my house, man.
He's
It's
like,
a
they'll be
long
walking
driveway.
miles. All right, question number 2, last one. What famous quarterback said this line? You can't see the sky is the limit when people are on the moon. What famous Browns quarterback said that line?
Famous Jameis.
There it is. Yes, Jameis Winston. He put on a
2016.
he put on a show for us. He put on a show for us Browns fans this past Sunday, and we'll talk about that. We also have the good, bad, the ugly. We also will talk about our running backs. We'll talk about the injuries to JOK and Ward. We'll update the X responses and from this past Sunday, we will share our thoughts and opinions with you because we need you to blow up the chat tonight. I know you're excited. We are excited because we actually won the game. It has been a while since we had a Victory Tuesday show. But first,
Wait, hold on, Chad. Do you hand out candy or no? We never answered.
He did say yeah. I heard.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have the whole house decorated. We got tombstones and skeletons and purple lights, and we're ready to go.
My kids have been doing a couple of trunk or treats, and they already have candy. And I'm like, dude, y'all can't have candy for that. Y'all just can't. So let's get into this. First, we're going to get into the breaking news of the day. A couple of news that I want to hit real quick. I want to get you guys' thoughts on the 3 top news that dropped. First of all, Anthony Richardson, the Colts, Indianapolis Colts quarterback, was benched today for our good friend Joe Flacco. That's after the fact that Anthony Richardson just foolishly checked himself out of the game because he was not hurt. Not because he stubbed his toe. Because he was out of breath. What are your thoughts on that?
Mine's simple. You don't do that. F around, you find out, man. It's simple.
I mean, I don't know. It's foolish that he checked himself out. It's more foolish that anyone found out because the coach was never going to tell anyone that that's what happened. He probably would have covered for him, but he, I think, openly told people like, "Yeah, I had to check myself out."
Yeah, that was insane.
What are you doing, man? Come on.
Insane.
Tell the coach like I'm gassed. Can we throw in a quick run play or like a quick dish? Like I'm spent. But don't take yourself out of the game. What are you thinking?
The good thing is he's young enough. Hopefully he'll learn from that. The second thing that dropped today is that the Houston Texans take a hit on the receiving core. Stephon Diggs tore his ACL on Sunday. He will miss the remainder of the season. How does this hurt the Houston Texans?
They're not off to. I mean, they're not doing also great right now. So I don't care. They beat us in the playoffs last year, so I don't care. Boom, mic drop.
I mean, I love C.J. Stroud, and I do think losing a receiver on this team, he's a good enough quarterback to make up for that. The problem is they also still have no Nico Collins, who arguably with Stephon Diggs are both capable of being a number 1 target. And without both of them, like there's only so much you can put on a guy with the skill set of Tank Dell. So yeah, this one's gonna bump them back in a season where everybody kind of had them shooting straight towards the AFC Championship game or somewhere in that vicinity. They're gonna have to really kind of find a way to step up their game. And they're still playing well, but they looked like kind of a juggernaut direction team, and now there's some question marks.
Yeah, good news is for them at least, they're in a horrible division, so it might not hurt them too bad until they get into the playoffs. Last but not least, the Ravens traded, our nemesis Ravens traded for Dante Johnson from the Carolina Panthers. They receive a 5th and a 5th round pick and a 6th round selection in exchange for Johnson. He leaves the Panthers with 30 receptions, 357 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That improves their offense. But the problem isn't that. The problem is their defense. As you can see, because we scored 29 points on them. But either way, what are you guys' thoughts on them adding a weapon to that already good offense?
Maybe this guy can catch a ball in the sun, and the Panthers are worthless right now, so might as well trade a decent receiver to somewhere pretty decent.
Yeah, this was the most tradable piece, I feel like, in the NFL that's left because that team is reeling. They have a young quarterback that's not working right now anyway. And Deontay Johnson, when they were playing a different quarterback, a capable quarterback, looked pretty good, but that's not getting them anywhere in the future. He's 27. I don't think he's got any time on his contract. This was a very easy, like, let's just get something because we're going nowhere with the package of Deontay Johnson and the Red Rifle or whatever they call Andy Dalton.
Red Rifle, yeah.
So like that duo is not getting them to wherever they're going. So it was an okay move for them, and it's kind of like the direction people are looking at for the Browns. Like, do you try to make some of those moves? But I just think these two franchises are in a different spot. But for them, good move. It gives the Ravens a very capable, dependable target. And so now they've got a couple guys who can, I would say, catch the ball because we had some drop problems this weekend, but can catch the ball.
By the way, the sun was not the sun. I believe that was Jim. He covered the eyes of Bateman there. But either way, at least that's what's being said. Either way,
we did that a few. I think he might have done that a few times in this game.
Yeah,
right. You think he wasn't standing there over Hamilton, like batting the ball,
batting the ball away from his hand.
Like he catches that 9 out of 10 times at least.
I just yelled doink, dude, when I seen it happen. I'm like, doink, doink, doink. Like, just right off his face, man.
Yeah. That was a heart attack for sure. One of many that happened.
You can run like a music reel, right, over like a circus reel over just that like bobbling catch, and I think every Browns fan was like, "No."
All right. Yes. All right. Yeah. Yeah. It was an intense game. We're gonna get into it, but first we go into our favorite segment: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Who wants to go first?
I don't think Chad's ever taken the good.
I'll do it.
Do it.
Yeah, give me the good. Give me the good. So the good is we all watched this team with a quarterback that could sling it down the field and was not hesitant to throw quickly, was not hesitant to drive it, and mistakes or not, and plenty of them came both yesterday and at the end of last season. The quarterback is not afraid to just take another shot, and that's much more fun football. And right now the Browns look a whole lot like that December team last year with Jameis Winston. So I think the good is that this team once again looks like an entirely different product when the quarterback is just willing to throw the ball and run the offense. And like I said, plenty of mistakes, but the good is that they don't seem to care about the mistakes. They just keep trying to run the offense, even after they make them or even after there's a close call. And to me, that is a much more fun and encouraging product to watch going forward.
You want to take the bad?
I'll do the ugly because I was there.
Okay. Yeah, you were.
So,
the bad is it's already week 8, and I really hope it's not too late because it's week 8 for us to turn around this team. We talked about it before we got on. There was a couple of bad losses this year, actually 3. Normally you lose one of those, but we lost all 3 all 3 teams that were winnable. We lost, so we have to make it up this next couple of weeks coming up. So hopefully it's not too late to turn this team around. Hopefully the magic of last year gets on top of this team this year.
Agreed. I said it earlier. 2 weeks ago, we're like, let's just purge, trade everybody. Let's restart. And this week now we're playoff.
Yeah, playoffs. Playoffs.
I'm so milquetoast. I wasn't on either. I was like, we're not going to the playoffs now, and we shouldn't have purged then. I'm so like in the middle, like
I don't want to commit yet because we could win.
Can't do it.
It's the Browns.
Can't do it.
Yeah, I don't want to. We'll talk about that later too. But Mike, you want to do the ugly?
So the ugly, there was a break there, so I ran down to grab another beer and some nachos, and I was watching the game while standing in line waiting to pay, and I see JOK go down, and I just sat there like, no, please, come on. I just need to pay, get up there, and I did. I didn't even go sit in my seat. I just I stood there right at the end of my aisle in awe, and the stadium was silent. Like there was this weird, eerie silence for a minute. It took a while to get him on a stretcher. They finally did. Everybody in that stadium started chanting JOK, and that was awesome. It's so saddening to see one of our best defensive, if not our best defensive player, go down. He had a huge game, and for it to fall on that in that game kind of was a bummer for everybody. But while he was getting carted away, he did give like a thumbs up, and there's some more. We'll get some more of that, but that was definitely the ugly part of it. And
yeah, for sure. James on Facebook says the O-line looks a little different, like a little different O-line. Nicholas Chubb looks good, and the 15-yard break was nice. So just you didn't do the good, the bad, and the ugly, James. Thanks for participating. You just did the good. I thought he broke it down the good.
I mean, that is a good. That's a couple of good, but
he's
right. Like these guys are coming back from injury. Exactly what we talked about. That the target was probably much more likely mid-November was when all of these like previous, like we have a new injuries now, but all of these previous injuries were going to finally be guys getting back and also getting into stride. And it really is kind of a bummer, like you said, to see JOK to go out. Also Ward getting hurt, we'll get into later, but that's another like very major piece that you lose. But from all the guys that had previously been injured and how we talked about next man up is a real thing for a position or two, but not for, all 5 or 4 of the 5 guys on the line, not for several running backs, not for, multiple defensive players in the same position. So it is it is tough, but losing any guys now, but the guys that have come back look so much more in sync. And again, there's an obvious big difference on this team, but all of those little things, I think, coming around at the end of October and into November will start to change people's mind about what we actually have here as a roster.
Yeah, and that's why you don't want to sell, because you saw hope in this game, and hopefully I hope it'll continue, because you have a couple winnable games, and hopefully that creates some type of encouragement or type of fire inside them to want to win. Last one on Facebook, Brendan says James is a gunslinger that we needed. I'll take a long interception over Dink and Dunk any day.
Yeah. Do we even have Dink and Dunk with Watson, though? How many times did he just not throw the ball at all? There was times where we were begging, like, check it down, like, or just like take the short open receiver, stop looking down the field or looking for a bigger play. Like, just please make a play, like do something. And so,
could I say something? I'm going to say something about that game. When I went to the Dallas game, the home opener, it was a weird, eerie feeling throughout the whole stadium. Everybody was happy. Browns football's back. It's game 1. Right after the first quarter, dude, it just seemed like all soul had left the building. This Sunday, I don't know what happened. Everybody may had a high expectations or what. It just, everybody was in a good mood. It felt so much different than that Dallas game. And I don't know if that was Jimmy Donovan sprinkling like fairy dust over the stadium or what it may be, man, but that whole stadium was lit that day. And I don't think we're going to
believe in a little Jimmy Donovan magic.
Yeah, and maybe they knew that the Ravens defense was the worst in the league, and that gave us a little hope. But
and the beer,
I think our next topic is the big game changer of what everybody was better of a mood about last week.
We do have some comments on YouTube as well. We'll get to those shortly, so stay with us.
Actually, hit those comments first, because it's been a minute and we hit the YouTube.
Ari says, do you try to win out and let people keep commenting? Do you try to win out or let the draft chips fall where they may? Try to win out. Why not? We're 2-6. Boom, let's go.
This is a win podcast. We can talk about it now. Let's hit it real quick. Yeah. Because like it's a great comment.
Yes, for sure.
And this is a debate. We talked about it a little before the show. There's basically, at least to me, 2 ideas of thought, right? There's either you are thinking you are going to try to find yourself a quarterback, and in order to do that, you get rid of assets, you come in as low as you can, and that's the direction you take, is you take that high pick and you pick whatever quarterback is available for you at 1, 3, 5, wherever. And the other side of that is you just try to maintain culture, and you risk the fact that you may not land high enough to pick the guy you actually want at quarterback, and you has more of a long shot. But on the opposite note, you continue to create a winning culture, belief in the roster that you already have that you can win, and you just figure it out next year when it comes to the quarterback position. Do you guys think anything different besides those two?
I agree. And I mean, it takes us right into the next comment. Guru says, I mean, this draft is in great shakes. Anyhow, unless you're looking for a D-line, a second-round pick this year, it won't be much different from a third.
I mean, what if you're thinking like, okay, we reviewed the draft. There's two quarterbacks we love. It's Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, and those are the only two we really believe in. And then you sort of, quote unquote, tank, and you pick fourth, and both of those guys are gone already. Then like, that's a pretty risky thing for me when you have teams like the Panthers that are so bad that you really would have to. the players are not going to lose on purpose out there. So like, you lose by you trade away a few more people, and you hope you're just bad enough not to win any. But from what we saw yesterday, I don't know that this is a team that's not going to win any more games. And I think there are a few teams out there, like the Jaguars and the Panthers, that they're trying to win and they can't, and nothing is going to change for them. So I think it's really risky to try to tank. And I think at this point, I'm more about the culture of just win, and you might just not be able to grab that top quarterback. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm just more about creating a culture of a standard of we try to win no matter what. And you just hope to work out quarterback one way or another later, whether it's Jameis or a guy that slips in the draft or whatever.
This last comment I agree with, and then we're going to move along. He said, no, get depth at skill positions and O-line, a nice cheap rookie contracts, trade away picks as much as possible to boost 2026, get a vet quarterback on a low contract, vet minimum. And that's kind of what we're doing now. I mean, Jameis Winston's only 30 years old. So there's life left in him. I mean, quarterbacks are playing until 40s now. I mean,
my question for that comment would be, who is your vet minimum guy who you'd rather slide in there than Jameis Winston, who you already have in the building and you don't have to get?
And the first person that says Joe Flacco, I'm kicking you off here.
Well, he'll be available next year.
If you do tank, you create a bad environment there, and somebody like Jameis probably wants to go to a different team. So,
how about the Jags give us Trevor Lawrence? James Frank says.
I'll stick with Winston.
I would risk a swap of some sort, but I don't think you can afford Lawrence.
Yeah, he's got money.
You have Watson on the book still. So
if they do Deshaun for him, then it'd be an even trade. Then I'll do it.
I could fall for this logic. I would believe that Trevor Lawrence is the type of guy who could have a resurgence like Baker just did, like Geno Smith just did, like Darnold just did. I also believe that could absolutely happen under Kevin Stefanski.
I agree.
For sure, because that's the type of quarterback that you can like kind of run your offense and he can make that work. But unless you can convince the Jaguars to take Watson, you are out of luck. So,
hey, we got this quarterback. His name's Deshaun Watson. You ever heard of him? He's really good.
Easy trade. One for one trade.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with James just said. James on Facebook says, just win, baby. Eat some W's. With that being
not everybody
said,
thinks this, by the way. This is a pretty polarizing topic. I'd say like after that game it shifted, but last week I think about 50% of the fan base was ready to just pack it up and send these guys off. Zadarius Smith. People were talking about Chubb and Garrett, which I thought was freaking insanity. Like, what are you talking about?
They're on drugs.
Elijah Moore, people were talking about. People were just mentioning anybody basically that young guys on 1-year deals, guys on 4-year deals, all stars, like all over the board. People were like, just get rid of everyone. And now I think
everyone's like
down to like around 30% of people are like, yeah, let's go the route of a rebuild.
Real quick,
I just think we can sloppily win too many extra games.
Jeff just said, I know that Mike was rooting for Lamar Jackson this past weekend. Listen, I was so inebriated.
He's on his fantasy team.
I was so inebriated. Yeah, he's on my fantasy team, and I played him this week. But he got me. I think
Probably
he got me
did
like
fine.
28 points. Yeah, he did fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
So as he scored his touchdown, he has a touchdown pass. As he's walking back, because I was on the Ravens side, I yelled, "Lamar, you're still ugly," and I sat there and thought, I'm like, man, why did I even say that?
Why did I even? Yeah, see, that's what happens when you drink at the game.
Yeah, Jeff, 3 or 4 points, man, he beat me by because they took those 2 touchdowns away from Pickens yesterday. So I lost my week by 4 points. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, it happens.
Took him away, or Pickens needs to learn to put his second foot down.
Well, hey, his right foot bounced twice. So is that 2 feet?
2 feet bounce. It was
both feet. It's both feet. Not just
two rights.
Foot touches.
Two rights make a wrong? No.
2 rights make a left. 2 rights make a left and a right. Anyways, well, let's get back in. Let's get into the recap. First and foremost, we're going to talk what everyone's talking about. Our quarterback, Jameis Winston. Jameis is the only quarterback to throw 40-plus times that have no interceptions this year. What are your thoughts, even though he's only played a game in some quarter? So that statement's a little extreme. But what are you guys' thoughts on what Jameis did this past Sunday? Were you kind of surprised?
I'll be quick. Not only is his pregame speech is awesome and amazing, and I think we all could listen to this guy talk forever. We know this already. But his gameplay showed on Sunday against the 4th best team in the league right now, that he's capable of being a decent quarterback with this offense. That's what I have. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that this could be a Flacco situation that comes in week 8 and saves the day. We're not going to have to tank the season. Let's roll with this guy, see what he does. We got some other stats that we're going to get to that could be somewhat mind-changing, but Flacco did the same thing. It's Joe Flacco all over again, essentially.
It's similar. Yeah. I mean, the comment I immediately wrote on this when you wrote that, how many passes he had with no interception, my first thought was he had 3 turnover-worthy passes according to Next Gen Stats. They basically just 3 dropped interceptions, which happens. I will say that a dropped interception or so happens to quarterbacks all the time, Mahomes, everybody. But he had 3 of them, and all 3 of them probably could have lost us this game. And we were playing the worst pass defense in the league, and they were missing Humphrey, their best corner, and one of the best corners in the league. I think he leads the league in interceptions. So when you think of them missing being the worst pass defense, also having their cornerback who leads the league in interceptions out, and Jameis throwing 3 interception-worthy passes, probably if Humphrey plays or any little thing changes, if Jim Donovan's angel isn't like affecting this game, we probably lose. We're probably frustrated. But I will say much of that game I expected to lose, and I still would have left feeling like, oh, this is a pretty darn good team that probably could have had 2 or 3 more wins this season with that quarterback. And I think that would be hard to convince me otherwise, that with that guy at quarterback, he got this win he probably shouldn't have gotten. But I do believe he could have beaten teams like the Bengals, the Giants, and the Raiders after seeing what he could do. And that's hard to argue.
Sam says, Dorsey up in the booth was nice to finally see, and we will definitely get to that. There's quite a bit to talk about with that. Guru says, no interceptions with a Death Star-sized asterisk.
Yeah. Big one. A big one. I mean, his stats are pretty good. He threw 41 times, and we'll talk about that and maybe the play calling later. 27-41, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked twice, which is a surprise considering I think Watson's been sacked like 4 or 5 times, 6 times in a game, which could allude to the fact that Watson's been getting out of the pocket a lot more, and Winston seemed to be staying in the pocket a lot more than typical. Maybe I'm breaking it down too deep, but either way, I think what Winston surprised me, and I'll tell you why, because he has thrown for over 300 yards in his first game. I didn't think he would do that. I thought he would be like a slow come in slowly, but he came in hot, and he has encouraged all this fan base, which you cannot blame him for doing that. Second topic, guys, the offensive line. What are you guys' thoughts? What do you guys think? Did you see improvement, or was it the quarterback? Was it the line? Was it the scheme? Was it the play calling, or was it everything?
So with my outlook on this whole thing, obviously there was a lot of changes this week with the coaching, Dorsey calling the plays. The line work, I think, for me, was a lot better than in previous weeks. PFF scores say otherwise, but I think with a quarterback that likes to stay in a pocket, they know where he's at. They could protect him a little bit better rather than him scrambling around, trying to get out of the pocket and make a play happen. I think the line showed up a lot better. Seeing DeJuan Jones, the left tackle, was a little weird, but I thought that he obviously had a few whiffs, unfortunately, but it's going to happen. I think that overall, this is the best we've seen this line this year. Hands down, the best. And could it be because of the quarterback staying in the pocket? I don't know. We're not going to know. What do you think, Chad?
So, I mean, for the most part, I agree. I think PFF actually had this as our second best line performance of the year. And I think the other time we had the performance, it was Wills, Batonio, Posick, I think Zinter, who has struggled, but then Conklin. So both times we've had a good performance. 4 out of our 5 starters have been in position. And that's kind of what we talked about earlier on the pod of like, yeah, next man up is great. It's a great theory. It doesn't work when you have so many guys out, when you've got 3 centers out or 2 left tackles are injured and a right tackle. Like there's just too many guys trying to step up and it's too chaotic. And this time, I think, so this was PFF's second highest grade for the line as a whole this season. And I think the real soft spots were Wyatt Teller had a bad game for Wyatt Teller. And I think a lot of that had to do with some penalties and some miscues. But we also saw, if you're watching the line during this game, he also had a couple pancakes and a couple big, like real Wyatt Teller, like dude blocks. So, it was a little hit or miss, but still the big plays were there. And communication with Teller is not a problem. So unlike Zinter, where he's coming off that injury, he's probably playing injured, even though he was out there. He missed several games. So he's not quite himself. I expect that to get better, but at least he knew what he needed to do. So if he slips off a block in 2 seconds, that's better than these miscommunications where a guy just runs past Zinter. And you had mentioned Jones had some struggles. Anybody last year knew that Jones is a much better pass blocker than run blocker, and we ran a fair amount. So I think his lower score, a lot of that has to do with he's just a terrible run blocker. He needs to get so much better at that. And with his weight and his coming off his knee injury, now is not the time that that's going to happen. That's got to be like an off season or throughout the season thing. They helped him with some chip blocks and things on the left side. And for the most part, he didn't let any major whiffs go past him. He had some miscues, but like when you just put them all together, this with those 5 in there, which is kind of awesome since there's a real possibility this is our 5 going forward, or at least 4 of them if somebody like Batonio retires. Like this could be our line, and I think the longer they play together, the better. With them playing so well as this unit, I would be really questioning what they're going to do with Wills going forward, whether he becomes the backup swing tackle, which we kind of, that article we talked about and the one I wrote into this summer with Dogs by Nature and Barry.
He's actually just commented
was
too.
Basically,
Yeah.
it was basically talking about how like in the long term, Jones might be a really good option at left tackle, and Wills might have been a better option at right tackle or swing tackle all along. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but you got to be encouraged by what these guys did for their first run together.
There's some trade rumors going around, that Wills might be going to Minnesota. So
interesting.
Yeah, we'll see.
But Barry Shuck, friend of show, Dogs by Nature writer, said, get this, sub Dwan for Wills, the Ravens game was the first game this year that all 5 starting offensive linemen played in the same game.
Yeah.
So yeah, and follow Dogs by Nature. Good articles that they write. Good follow on Facebook and X.
They have so much great content. It's awesome.
We
Yeah,
have them
they're
on
good.
quite a bit as well.
Yes.
Great time.
From the line to something more of a surprise. The wide receivers. Let's talk about our wide receivers this game. Cedric Tillman, 7 receptions, 99 yards. Elijah Moore, 8 receptions, 85 yards. Jerry Jeudy, 5 receptions, 85 yards. And David Njoku, 5 receptions, 61 yards. This has been, I tried to Google this. I tried to do the black web, a dark web. I don't know. I couldn't find the last time we had 5 receivers, 5 pass catchers over 50 yards in a game. This was what shocked me entirely. And I'll leave some for you guys. Go ahead.
I think Jameis Winston could read a defense better. If there needs to be an audible, I think he'll call it if needed. I seen these wide receivers catch the ball like they did on Sunday was not only like electrifying to all of us fans. That stadium again went crazy when there was a catch. It was like, we're not used to this. Our receivers catching balls. So
That's
that
such a sad thing to say.
It is, but I got to be
They
real.
erupted because somebody actually caught the ball.
Well, I mean, seriously, that's what it's been.
I believe it. You hold your breath every time something goes to Moore or Tillman, and it used to be Cooper, and we knew it couldn't go on like that forever. They were not going to drop, with Cooper in his first 5 games in Cleveland, he had 10 drops. I think he's up to 11 now. You knew that wasn't going to continue at that exact pace, but also at the time that Cooper had 10, the whole team had 16 or something. And you're like, that can't possibly
continue
at that trend. So hopefully they got a lot of those out of their system. But I will say the beginning of this year looked undisciplined. Guys looked uninterested. And I'm not going to speak for them and say this was the case, but they looked undisciplined, uninterested, and just were not focused. And yesterday there was just more juice in the stadium. And maybe you guys are right. Maybe some of that was Jim Donovan. There's probably a vibe around the locker room. A bunch of that had to have been Jameis, and just any change at that position. I mean, they watched the end of the Bengals game and they were probably like, oh, this guy can get it down the field. We're going to be okay. They've seen him in practice. They know a lot of these guys grew up seeing Jameis play when they were younger. They know who Jameis Winston is. Our receivers are all 23 to 25. Jameis is 30. They're in college when he's a pro. He's a guy they're familiar with. But I think you're right. Seeing all those guys, Angel, with 80 plus yards receiving, plus another 60 something from Njoku. That's an incredible line to have that many yards without just one standout guy that just blew up.
Let me ask you guys something. Could Cedric Tillman be the diamond in the rough?
Could he? No, speaking of Cedric Tillman, the last 2 games, he has caught 15 passes, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's an average of 12 yards per reception. Guys, I think he can.
Yeah.
You can split those up too, because there's going to be talk about did Jameis Winston unlock Tillman? But Tillman had 99 yards this week. Last week, with that kind of rotation of all 3 quarterbacks, he had 88. So I would say the bigger effect was getting Amari, who right now I'm just going to consider a punk. See ya. 1 catch for 3 yards with Josh Allen this week, and he's complaining about playing with Watson pretty much. Whatever. But since he's left and they've slipped Tillman more into that X role, the guy has just stepped up to another gear that I don't think I knew he had.
If you watch him in Tennessee, I've seen him some in Tennessee. I didn't scout him, obviously, but I seen there was that potential. But then you would think, especially after that Jacksonville game when he dropped that pass. By the way, he made up for it. It was the same route for the first down. It was the same route, same pass, same location, and he caught it. So he learned from his mistakes, which is great to see a second receiver. Second, and by the way, he's only in the league 2 years. It's his second year, so he has time to grow. I think he has an opportunity to share the role with Jerry Jeudy, 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Now, if Judy's 2, I'm okay with that, even though we're paying him a lot of money. Sergio Tillman is I'm starting to feel Tillman. I kind of like the guy.
It's sad it took 2 years for it to happen, but here we are.
Well, 2 years
I guess. Go ahead.
No, 2 years, but a quarterback that can get him the ball. I mean, he had inconsistent quarterback play last year. Now you're going to have somebody, hopefully, God willing, Winston stays healthy. And Winston, we know at one point we're going to be on this podcast talking about something that he randomly does. He'll have a Flacco game, but he has a quarterback that believes in him, and you can see Jameis's belief in the players, and that has oozed out and energized this team, I believe. Even though his pregame speeches are hilarious, I do think that changed the tightness. There was so much tension there because of Deshaun being there, and is Deshaun going to play well? Is Deshaun going to play well? Now he's gone. Now it's like, let loose, let's have fun. We're 2-6, and I think now Jameis's culture of fun and looseness might help this team.
Yes.
While we're on that,
before we forget and
sorry.
and get too far off the difference between these receivers playing with different quarterbacks, we had talked a little bit before the show of looking up the numbers of their release, and we've already talked about the offensive line and how they looked better. This has something to do with that. We talked about the quarterback. This has something to do with that, and now we're talking about the receivers. This has something to do with that. We looked at first of all, there's an internet rumor going around there that Jameis Winston had like 4.6 seconds to hold the ball or something. For anybody that's listening, that was a mistake. There was a mistype in the next gen stats that had him holding the ball for 69 seconds instead of 6.9 seconds for one pass. And that's been corrected, but we did explode his average. But still, the average time for Jameis Winston to release the ball was registered at 2.44 seconds.
Jeez.
If he did release the ball, so if you take out the times he was sacked or the times he scrambled, that goes down to 2.35 seconds on his actual passing plays, which put him at the higher end of the league, like the top 30% of the league for this week. If you look at Watson, he, for the season, was at 2.95, which would have put him, fourth from the bottom. So 28th in the league, or 29th in the league at getting rid of the ball. So there's just a few guys that were holding the ball even longer than that. And one of them was like Young, who's just been terrible this year. And you don't want to be compared to the bad, like young quarterback. So such a huge difference. It helped the line. I think it helped the receivers because they weren't like out of their routes or they didn't have time to have to make these options. And all around, the offense just had to be so affected by a guy just hiking the ball, getting rid of it in less than 2.5 seconds. Massive change.
One thing I do want to say is I think Deshaun Watson was one of the main problems. I'm going to say it. I think he was. Honestly, there's
for sure
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yeah, the line showed up this week, but again, man, when you got a quarterback that could run like that, we watch it with Lamar Jackson. I don't think he could do it anymore. It's just not him. We don't have the line for that either, like Lamar does. I don't know what they do in Baltimore that lets him run like that, but
Lamar
we don't have that. We don't have that in Cleveland.
I'll just say, to back your point about Watson like not being that guy anymore, if he wasn't that guy now after an Achilles rupture, I have even less faith that he's going to become that running guy again, because that's a massive injury for a running quarterback.
Well, maybe he'll keep his ass in a pocket this next time.
No, I don't think that's who Watson is. And I think one thing that we will probably hit on maybe during the bye week is the importance of giving Kevin his guy, whether that's somebody in the draft or whether that's somebody in free agency, somebody who can go under the center, somebody who do play action, somebody that can have some scrambling ability, but definitely not somebody who just plays out of shotgun. I think that's something that they have to learn from their mistake and say, no shotgun quarterback. Let's get a guy under center because I think the outlier of all these quarterbacks that Kevin has success with so far has been under center, not behind 20 feet beyond what the center is.
Somebody said that in the comments earlier, and I was going to get to that.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I think it was James Frank. Play action works. We watched it work. That's this offense, and I know Chad has a solid point about play action and Kevin Stefanski and the 2020 offense.
Yeah, 2020 and the Flacco offense. And I won't even. This isn't even credit to me. This was, I want to say, Lima on the morning show. One of the best takes I heard, and I think it was him, said something like, "We were all wondering about about Ken Dorsey calling plays, and the most interesting thing was Kevin Stefanski has been calling plays for 7 games this season, and the whole time it looked like he was trying to call this Dorsey offense. And then Dorsey went to call plays this week, and it looked like he was running pretty much the Stefanski offense that we all kind of watched with Joe Flacco and the couple years with Baker. That's exactly that. There was 12 personnel. There was an occasional 13 personnel. They ran a little bit more than they have been, although they weren't run heavy, and they shouldn't have been against the Ravens.
Excuse me.
run defense, but like everything about that game plan and the play calling looked like what Kevin Stefanski used to call for other quarterbacks, and it just made me laugh that that's what we got out of Dorsey. Maybe best case scenario for Dorsey.
Yeah, I agree. Next, Chubb, our beloved superhero. What are you guys' thoughts on his second game back?
I think with his second game back, he's still looking a little weird. I seen him make some cuts that were incredible. He ran right into defenders and cut off to the left and still made a big play happen at the end of the play. Obviously, the guy is going to take a little bit to get back to his normal. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. Same with David Njoku. Look at his third game is best this year.
Yeah.
It's going to take a couple of games. That dude's going to break one off, and Cleveland is going to go insane. And I hope it happens against Pittsburgh.
That would help. Chad?
I mean, he'll be out there next week trying to progress just a little bit more. I don't think he played very well. The numbers show that too. He rushed for like 3.3 yards a carry.
Yep.
The one thing I will say on a positive, though, was he looked like he was able to navigate patiently and find a hole. So when he gets his burst back, there's no reason to believe he won't be able to improve. The other thing is he went from 2 yards a carry last week in limited carries to carrying the ball more this week and moving up to 3.3 yards a carry. I mean, that's a pretty upward trajectory for a guy only in his second game back. So I'm encouraged, and at the same time, it wasn't great. The one plus is he looked a little bit like Kareem Hunt last year, and I didn't think Kareem Hunt last year. He's playing better this year, but I didn't think Kareem Hunt played very well last year. But one thing you could kind of always count on from Kareem Hunt for the last year or two is that he was going to pick the right hole, and he was going to make a positive play, and he wasn't going to like do something silly. And that's what Chubb looked like yesterday on several plays. He kind of ran into a crowd. He found some way to sneak through, get an extra yard or two. He just looked like he still has the mind for the game. He's just got to get back his burst, and his strength is there. We've seen him lift 1,100 pounds or whatever he's squatting in the locker room in those videos.
I think it's 600,
but that fast twitch, like explosive, like more of like your cleans and your jerks and those really like explosive movement type of muscles, those take longer to come back, and they take repetition. Kind of like I was saying with Watson's shoulder, like he's not going to have that zip on the ball and really be able to fling it until he really gets repetition. So I'm hyped about where Chubb could get.
Yeah, so I'll add another positive spin to this. The Ravens' rushing defense is the best in the league, and they average 70 yards per game. And Chubb had 52 on them. So if you want to look at progression and how, and by the way, Dr. Chad had it mid-November-ish to where he can maybe beginning mid-November-ish where we'll start to see form coming into play where the vision matches the speed, matches the cutting. So hopefully in November we can see that Chubb 20-yard run. But yeah, so let's also remember like the Ravens defense is pretty good on rush. So let's not downplay his 50 yards too much, but also feel encouraged that we might get the old Nick Chubb back by the Pittsburgh game, like Mike wants.
Oh my God, that would
James-
be incredible.
James
And
said,
I think my original prediction, I think I had him being like back in stride around mid-November. I think I had him coming back earliest the Chargers game, and that'll be his third game back. So he's really kind of taken steps about 2 weeks ahead of when I had him. So
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier with them either. They're top 10 defense at Chargers. I think they're
they're fourth.
They're 11th in the 11th overall in rush.
Third
So,
overall.
Third overall. Yep.
I hope Nick Chubb has like 600 yards.
Yeah.
But listen, James Frank says he's the first running back to put 50 yards against the Ravens defense.
Yeah. So that we'll end that there with the positive. Any other comments on the YouTube?
Guru says exactly. He hasn't been moving at NFL speed he hasn't been moving at NFL speed since last year. He just needs time to get back up there. Physically, he seems fine. He just needs the reps. And I agree because
we all agree.
You're practicing on the field with your teammates. That's one thing. But when you get into a real game and it's the nitty gritty, time to show up, he'll get back to that. He'll adjust to that. I think quickly as well. So it's not gonna, like I said, it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen.
Yeah. And Cameron Justice has been posting his practice film. If everybody should follow her. If you're listening to this podcast and you don't follow her, that's a miss. You got to follow that account. But that the practice looks similar to what you're seeing in the games. There's just not quite the agility and explosiveness that you have seen in the past, and it kind of played out in this game too, because you watch like him do a drill with Deontay Foreman or Pierre Strong, and they just look more agile and a little quicker, but they will never have like his vision and power. So as I'm watching these practices and 3 weeks ago last week's practice, he looks incredibly better. So if he can keep up that trend and he starts to get that agility and burst back, yeah, the sky's the limit for Nick Chubb, and we kind of all know that.
Yep.
Last with the in-game stuff, injuries. Dr. Chad, you want to hit that up?
Yeah, and I wish I had more to say. I'm following him. Denzel Ward, it's fair to be worried now. 6, we talked about him having that 5th concussion in the offseason, and it seemed like a very minor one. It was could have been precautionary. I didn't know at first if he even ended up diagnosed with a concussion for the first couple of days of it, because it was such a minor thing. But we thought, they held him out. It eventually got confirmed. Now you're looking at 6 concussions, and the part that's a little tougher is 2 of them are 2 months apart. So yeah, it's time to be worried. I still don't think he's coming back and retiring. I know it's really funny because when he had that one in the preseason, and when like Tua had his, when the fan base is all riled up and there's either like bad vibes or losses, everybody's calling for these guys to retire. And then this time he goes down.
He's like, no.
Too busy talking about the win to talk about to DM me specifically and be like, how can you say he's not going to retire? I don't know if he's gonna. I doubt he is. But
just put a Guardian cap on, dude.
Try to grab that Guardian cap. If I were the coaching or training staff, I would be pushing like, hey, I know this bothers you, and you're having a great year, and I know you think it will slow you down, but if you want to keep playing, this is becoming a must. And I don't think it saves you from them. People have gotten them with the caps too. It happens, but any little thing you can do to help him, I think you have to now. And then on JOK, oh my gosh, what a relief. So he tweeted yesterday evening, like, everything's all good. And some word that I didn't know that my head kept saying, hallelujah. I don't know, actually. I couldn't pronounce it. I don't know what it means. I just know it seemed to me like, thank the Lord. So that was just the context vibe I got. So it seems like he's okay. This could be a very Dante Foreman situation where they coptered him out, just because when you get a spinal injury, there could be swelling around the spinal cord. There could be bruising on the spinal cord. There could be a fragmented bone that chipped or broke off. And if you move your head, you have a chance of permanently damaging the spinal cord, which is why they took so long to slowly get him on the spine immobilizer in order to wheel him off the stadium, and then they coptered him to University Hospital. So it was a scary thing, but just like Deontay Foreman, it could have been just very precautionary, because if there is something wrong in there, you just can't risk permanent damage. But they could have looked at him, taken MRIs, and just said, "Hey, it's just a neck strain or a bruised bone or something like that," in which case he can start probably moving soon and working his way back. We don't know the timetable, but it could be anywhere from like a week, 2 weeks, if there's only a minor sprain. So let's hope.
I did see Lifelike come in, and I was like, oh no, man. And then they took off.
You just got to do it with a neck. Same with Foreman. Like, you had to do it, because if there's the smallest bone chip that came off the spine in that neck injury, and you're like, oh, I feel actually okay, and then you pinch or clip something, there's no coming back from that. So
yeah, hopefully he gets back. I mean, it kind of sucks not having them for the Chargers game, but after that's the bye week anyway, so give him 2 weeks off. If he could take 2 weeks off, I think we'll be okay. Ward is a concern. I don't know too much. Concussion seems to vary with the information coming out now.
That's
Everything
the problem.
new.
It's so variable based on how severe the concussion is too, and we'll never know that. Like, there's guys who have had a dozen concussions, and then there's guys who have 3 and are like, I never going to be the same. It's just so different. I know I've had a few, which shouldn't be shocking to anybody there.
Lastly, Mike, you want to hit the Twitter poll that you put up, or and Facebook poll? What question did you ask?
I asked everybody, what would you grade Ken Dorsey's play calling against the Ravens? And you posted it on Facebook as well, and there was a lot of A's and B's. 60% of you said an A, 33.3% of you said B. Nobody said C, and 6.7% said D.
That's funny, because what should have been? Yeah,
I'm gonna go with a hard C, because there's so much room for improvement. No matter who's calling the plays, we won a game, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm gonna give it a C. That's a start.
I say C plus, because I think it can be a B. You can talk me into a B, but I think, considering, you know what, it's a B. Considering that defense that they played, the run game, the play calling, the scheme, everything seemed to work out perfectly.
But they played against the 30th ranked pass defense.
Yeah, but it was Jameis's magic that makes me want to push it to a B.
Almost 3 interceptions. Almost.
Yes,
only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
And PFF scores. But
PFF scores.
But no, I give it, I think I will give it a B, because I felt like it was the best game playing calling we've had all year, and I liked it. Okay, don't judge me. Your turn, Chad.
You're gonna hate this, and I'm gonna give it an A. And
all right, let's go.
Here's why. Here's why. I think it has. I mean, sometimes these grades have to do with expectation. I was so worried about Dorsey as a play caller, and we brought him in. He wasn't my favorite person to bring in. I think he was like my 4th choice on my list of 4 or 5 guys that were available. And my big nervousness was, well, the reason he got fired in Buffalo is because he has no balance to his offense. And so, but I thought he might be a great fit here, because Stefanski will be calling the offense, and Stefanski won't go crazy. I think he did a little, but that's another day, another topic. The big reason I want to give him such a great grade is because I said, essentially, if Dorsey ever calls plays, I hope, A, he doesn't just completely abandon the run, and he didn't. We'll see if he can run the ball more against a more run-friendly team. But I think he ran the ball enough to keep the defense honest, but he still threw a lot, which you had to do against the Ravens defense, because they're so putrid throwing, protecting against the pass. And then I guess there was just almost no play. There's some poor execution, some near interceptions, a couple not great things, but there were no plays in this game where I was just like, what a dumb call. Why would you do that at this point in the game? And for that reason, I guess for his first game calling, I'm going to give him an A for like a overall first time performance with a completely new quarterback and a lot of unknowns. He made our receivers look better. Nick Chubb was a little bit better. He called plays that could be executed faster to help the offensive line. And so I'm not saying there's not room for improvement, but in the scenario he was given, I don't know that I could have asked for a ton better.
The main reason I'm giving it a C is because, one, you have a totally new quarterback that is used to this kind of offense. And he did well. There's, like I said, errors that need to be fixed. Again, with some of the pre-snap penalties. And that's not on Dorsey at all. But I called it last week when I said, let's start a science project and put Dorsey up in a booth for 2 weeks and see what happens. I also called that we were going to beat the Ravens.
But you're the only
on a
one.
Cleveland win.
I thought we was going to get ran on by Henry, which I mean,
I'm pretty sure you and Nick Carnes are the only two people in the country that picked the Ravens. But one of the two of you picks the Browns against the Ravens, but one of the two of you will always take that very positive road.
Yeah.
And the other one is Mike.
I seen Chad
Usually positive.
go off on Nick Carnes.
I didn't go off on him. We go back and forth a little bit, but I call him out on sometimes on how positive he is, and when he gets himself so like amped up, and then things go wrong, he's so mad, and I'm like, you just were being so unrealistic.
You did it to yourself.
That's why you're so mad. You did this.
You did it to yourself.
Like, the Browns are going to win 13 games and go to the Super Bowl, and I'm like, this was not the year
I did see that.
for that prediction. And then 4 games in, he's like, I can't believe this. How did this Super Bowl team go wrong? And it's like, they weren't a Super Bowl team to start this. So we'll go back and forth. And we always end the conversation cordially, but I do call him out a lot because I cannot believe how roller coaster, like he gets so positive and then he's just so negative, and then he's right back the next day to like, actually, I think they're going to win it this week.
But honestly, could it have been there's what is that saying? Too many
chefs in the kitchen.
Too many chefs in the kitchen. We'll go with that. Good, nice little baker pun. Too many chefs in the kitchen down there on the field. And I actually on 92.3 they were talking about it. How as an offensive coordinator you would want to be on the field so you can get a face to face with them if you need to fix something. But no,
you got to feel pretty good knowing that Kevin is a person capable of doing that. And if you have to, you just say, hey, Kevin, when he comes off the field, let him know this is what I saw up here, and he's got to keep his eyes open for this. And Kevin can relay that message. So I'm not too worried about that, but I agree with you. The guys that like to be down on the field is because they like to coach the quarterback between plays, and the guys that like to be up in the booth feel like they have somebody else that can do that, a quarterback coach they trust or a head coach, and they can see the field better up there. So there's no right answer. It just depends on who is the rest of your staff and do you work together well enough for one of you to be up there.
Last thing on this, and then we'll move into the closing. It would be interesting. First, it was weird seeing Kevin without the Dennings menu and his arms just folded the whole time. 2, it would be interesting to see if Ken changes his game plan based upon the opponent's weaknesses, right? So what he did this week, and it was a gimme, let me pass. So maybe we seen less running because he knew that was their strength. One thing I felt Kevin didn't do well enough was exploit the weaknesses of the defense that he's playing against. So I'm hoping that if it calls for more run plays because his team sucks at the run, then call for run plays. But at the same time, if it doesn't, I mean, if you have to throw 60 times and wins because they're last and they're allowing 400 yards passing, by God, just do it. You know, that's what I'm hoping Ken does.
I will say, I think historically Ken has not done that, and that was why he was fired. If he learned a lesson from that and he can do what you just described, he can be a much more effective and long-term solution here because his offense looked fine with a different quarterback. So if he does what you just said and calls his plays and they scheme much better than we did against like the Giants and the Raiders, who had awful run defenses, and we just didn't trust running against them. Those are winnable games with the team we saw today, but they were probably winnable games then if we just schemed better.
Correctly. Yep. Last thing, Mikey, you have something to say?
I forgot what I was going to say, so we're going to move along.
Yeah, let's move along. Let's close this show out. Let's talk about the AFC. We knew what happened with the Ravens. We beat the Redbirds. But in case you guys didn't know, Pittsburgh is on top. And by the way, I said Pittsburgh was the best team in the division after their week 1 win against Atlanta, and it's looking pretty good. And I got roasted on Facebook after I posted that, but it's looking pretty good because I think their defense, like I said, their defense is going to be good enough to keep them in games. If they get good, comparable, average quarterback play, they're going to be good because they have what, guys? The Tomlin effect. Tomlin wins games that are just impossible to win somehow. He just sprinkles the dust and they win. In Cincinnati loses against Philadelphia by 20 points. Thank goodness, because they're going down and we're moving up, and hopefully those roles will reverse in Ohio and we can move up. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
They got
AFC
bombed.
North?
They got bombed by the Eagles.
No, did you see what Detroit did to Tennessee? They got bombed. 52-14.
Those teams aren't even on the same plane right now.
Yeah, I know that, but
Tennessee is reeling.
bombed.
That's another team where it's like, you guys want to tank and get the top pick in the draft, and you've got teams like Tennessee to compete with.
Yeah.
Good luck batting them now.
That's bad. Eagles were 2-point favorites and they ended up winning by 20. Insane.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I said in the offseason, everybody should chill with all the making fun of the Steelers because they had 2 quarterbacks who were both better than Mason Rudolph. And whichever one ended up the starter, if they could maintain their defensive level like they always do, then they were going to be pretty dangerous. I actually still think the Ravens are a better overall team just because Lamar's so good. But I think the balance of the Steelers with Russell Wilson and their ability to compete with almost any type of team without a gigantic weakness like the Ravens obviously have.
Yeah, they have a huge defense is horrible.
Yeah, dangerous.
And they're going to have to put up 40 points-ish, 35, 40 points up to win. I don't know maybe Pittsburgh sucks enough not to put up 40 points, but that's going to be a good head-to-head matchup.
They can't put up points. They can't put up points, but they can stop other teams' offenses, hold them, make a mistake, and then capitalize. And their special teams, their
best in the league
players, and I think Pickens is very talented, and they've got running backs. It's just a matter of if Russell continues to be pretty good. And I think they had a major weakness with Fields because if you can stop him, you can stop them because he can't sling the ball. But with Russ, if he plays even decent, like we're talking about with the Browns, they're in a situation where Russell just has to be okay and they'll win because their defense can keep them in games and cause other teams to make mistakes and panic. So we'll see. They're coming up eventually here.
I got 2 things. If my Cleveland Browns beat both Harbaughs in 2 weeks in a row,
it's more than Ohio State did.
Amazed. That'd be awesome. And then, of course,
It'll
Ohio
be
State.
More than Ohio State has ever done.
Yeah. So a friend of the show as well, his name's Ken McDonald, hit us up this week and said that the Berea Browns backers are actually having a Browns backer bash this Saturday from 5 to 8 at the Grindstone Tap House in Berea. I think I'm pretty sure I'm going. Angel might go.
I will confirm.
They have an awesome shirt they're selling for $10, and I'm going to buy all of them. So don't try to buy the shirts.
They have limited supply though, so
yes.
you probably have to get there early.
But me and Angel might be up there. There's another podcast going on while we'll be up there as well. But they got food and drinks, $3 domestics. Let's do it. I'm probably not going to drink at all, but
you should probably until you get the $3 domestic, and you're like, yeah, this ain't bad.
That's a possibility. Yeah, we might be up there Saturday. I think I'm for sure going. But yeah, let's get this Chargers win.
Yeah, let's get the Chargers. Saturday show, we'll talk about the Chargers. Their defense is better than I anticipated. We'll break that down Saturday, 10 o'clock-ish, 10:30. Saturday morning show.
If you don't fall asleep again.
Yeah, if I don't fall asleep. No, Saturday I was coming in from Kentucky, so we didn't do that one for work. But that's it, man. That's all we have. Shout out to our sponsors, CB Excavating and Doug White. Allstate Insurance. I got it right. For sponsoring the show. We appreciate you guys' comments. We ask that you follow, like, and subscribe our podcast, our YouTube, our X, our Facebook, and whatever social media is out there. I'm pretty sure we're on there.
Yeah, everybody that's watching right now, smash that like button, like they say.
Share
Smash
it. And also share, let people know that we're getting better at this. I felt like this was our smarter show to come. You know, we a lot of facts, a lot of stats, a lot of opinions drop. Until next, hopefully, Victory Tuesday.
I'm going to close it out with Donovan's again.
Yep. Go Browns.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fawcett Stadium in Canton, Ohio, and the 1999 Hall of Fame game. The wait is over. Browns football is back underway.
That's it! The Browns are going to the playoffs! The postseason is back in Cleveland! 45-40, run, William, run! 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Jabba Lubba Hub! And they're going to the playoffs! And the only thing that's missing, all of you.